I don't think in life you can get much accomplished without a plan. Understanding what you have, what you need, what your gaps are is key. You know, retirement planning is different depending upon your age. As soon as you get a job, number one priority is to pay yourself first.
And tell us what you're going to talk to us about today. I know it's a little bit of retirement, maybe finance, maybe
real
downsizing,
estate,
maybe, yes.
Yeah. So I co-own a financial advisory practice located in Leominster, Mass. with my significant other, life partner, whatever you want to call him. His name's Brian Saranovitz. He's actually from the area, so people watching this may be familiar with Brian. Mm-hmm. But so we are partners in the practice called Your Retirement Advisor. We focus on retirement planning for people probably 50 to 60, 70, 80. People are living longer. So, we work with all ages. We have 20-somethings and 30-somethings also. So we've been doing that for about a decade. Wow. Seen it all, done it all. We work with people all across the country, as well as right here in the Leominster, Westminster, Fitchburg area. Yep. And it's a blast. We have a lot of fun doing it, just helping people figure out how to take everything that they've accumulated, whether it's their home, whether it's their 401k, figuring out their Social Security, how to create an income for life. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. And, interestingly enough, there's ways that you can leverage your home to help you in retirement if you plan to stay in your home, or, maybe you're going to sell your home and you want to use the assets in the home to do something else. So lots of stuff. So
it sounds like you have like a plan set up.
Oh,
like when people call you, it's not just like, hey, help us to retire, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because I always think of retirement as like you have to have savings and you have to have like, all the stuff in stocks and whatever, mutual funds. Right. But it sounds like what you are coming across with is actually a plan.
100%. It's all about the plan. I don't think in life you can get much accomplished without a plan. So we believe that preparation, education, understanding what you have, what you need, what your gaps are is key. Mm-hmm. And that is the first step in planning. And then you're going to work either on your own if you want to DIY it, or with a retirement advisor, financial advisor, to figure out what are all the elements of the plan. Because people think, I was talking to a woman actually probably 2 years ago, and she's like, well, I have a 401k and I have my house, I'm all set. And I'm like, well, a 401k is a retirement plan.
Yes.
But it's not your plan. That's just one component of your plan, especially when you approach retirement, because you have so many things going on. So, you could be downsizing. You might be selling the big home and downsizing to something small. You might be, okay, I've got my home, I want to downsize, but I also want to have a vacation home up in New Hampshire. That's just one component. But then you've got your 401k or your IRA monies, or maybe you have a brokerage account where you have some stocks in, Google or whatever. Right. But then there's other factors that come into it as we approach retirement age, traditional retirement age. Social Security starts at 62. Mm-hmm. You might not want to take Social Security at 62. It might not be the best decision for you financially. Long-term care, that's huge, right? Who's going to take care of me when I'm old and unable to take care of myself? Am I going to go into a home? Am I going to age in place? There's Medicare. Medicare is a huge issue. Like, okay, 65, I get Medicare. How do I choose? Medicare is super complex. How do I choose Medicare?
You help people choose?
Oh, yeah.
I've had my coworkers saying, wait till you get to 65. It's a cluster.
Now, I don't know if it's just because I'm a millennial and we just really, I haven't thought that far in my life yet, to be honest. But, as I get older, I get more and more like, I have to plan for the future, especially being in real estate. You're sale to sale. So at the end of the day, like your savings, what you've got for assets is your cushion, unless you have a 401k, a plan set up. And so I'm really intrigued by this like topic and wanting to know, other than just, looking into what you've put into in Social Security and Medicare, when do you feel is like the best time to be looking into your retirement plan?
When you first get a job.
Oh, I'm already behind that.
No, I actually have twins that are in college, and they've been around this financial stuff for a long time. Even before I got into the industry, I was in high-tech marketing. and with the companies that went public. And so they've always been exposed to the financial markets and what's going on. But they're like, Mom, we got to get our Roth IRAs started. So I always say to a young person, retirement planning is different depending upon your age, right? In your 20s, you do this, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yeah. There's a different plan for every decade, right? But I always say to people, young people, like as soon as you get a job, number one priority is to pay yourself first. Start 15%, like just take it out. Like just pretend that your income is 15% less. Put that 15% in because there's something called compound interest. Einstein called it the ninth wonder of the world, because when you put in consistently starting at 20 years old, by the time you're 60, obviously, depending upon what you put in, you could have $1 million.
Wow,
pretty quickly. I want to say pretty quickly. I think with millennials this day and age, there's issues, right? Real estate is expensive. Yes. Cost of living, hopefully this isn't a political discussion, but Trump has promised to help bring down the cost of goods and the cost of living. Mm-hmm. It is challenging, but I think every generation has its challenges. Mm-hmm. But I would start there, because the earlier you can save and be consistent, the better off you'll be in the future. So I always say that to younger people, 20, first job, 15% off the top. 100%.
It's funny that you're saying that, because I remember buyers changing. Like my younger buyers that wanted to buy, this is a couple years back, they didn't have any savings at all.
Right.
They're coming to the table to buy a house with nothing in a savings account. I remember lenders telling me, is this another one that doesn't have any savings? And I'm like, how do you function in the real world without a savings account?
Right.
It's scary.
Right.
It's scary, but it's also something I think my generation's used to. We're very used to not having those funds.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. I'm really
Were you
not.
taught not to save money?
No, it's just more so, I think, as young as I can remember talking about gas prices, and things are always just kind of escalating. So you're always just kind of going with where things were week by week, or, and I'm now talking, a few years back. I remember myself buying my first home. I had very little, we almost took out a loan to pay back to then just have something with substance to put down. But I've also noticed that a few years ago was people buying, a starter home, and your first home is a starter home, and I can level up later. Yeah. I'm noticing now a lot of people, in that younger crowd are looking for their forever home. They're like, I don't have time to escalate this. I got to pick and sit and gain my equity there. True. And I think that's coming down to that thought of, what am I going to do when I'm older? I need to have something to live in. A lot of my clients are looking at first floor housing, and they're completely, bodily abled, young 27-year-olds, because they're thinking about
the future. Yeah. I always would say, and I didn't take this advice because I actually didn't hear it from my parents, but my advice to young people is to buy a 2-family, 3-family home, live in one side. Yeah, it might not be your dream location, but eventually you can move out and it can be a rental property, because that is another source of income, right? It's all about income, right? It's all about cash flow, actually. Life is about cash flow and managing your cash flow, having your income and your expenses, and whatever you have left is your cash flow. I think one of the other most important things that people can do, and I almost said women only because I have another platform that I created called Her Retirement, where I focus on educating women about money, life, and retirement, because so many women have extra challenges, which we could have a whole separate conversation about those extra challenges. For sure. But is investing in your skills, whether it's education, whether it's a trade, whatever it is, investing in yourself and making yourself marketable and employable is probably the most important thing. And I think the other thing is just behavior, because I think a lot of people, our society is so much more prosperous. I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but our society is so much more prosperous than we were in the 1800s and 1900s. Sure. We've never been more prosperous in history. But the issue is, it's not always what we make, it's what we spend. That's the issue.
Very true.
So reeling in your spending habits, but that gets down to behavior. And human behavior is we want it now.
Yeah.
And that's why we put it on the credit card and then we pay 29% interest and we just screw ourselves by getting in so over our head because we want it now. But then we have all this marketing and it's like, buy.
Right.
You know, back in the 90s, I think, when the banks were just like giving out loans, mortgage loans like candy, right? So it's just, we're part of this machine, this marketing machine that's saying, buy, and we have human behavior. So that's where people get in trouble, is that discipline to say, okay, I got to save. I got to reduce my spending. I'm not going to put it on a credit card unless it's an emergency or I can pay it off every single month. All right, ladies, if you're over 50 and you're starting to think, am I ready for retirement? Let me save you some Googling. You don't need a better calculator. You need a better plan and the right people around you. That's what you'll find inside my Her Retirement Collective. It's smart, it's supportive, and it's made just for you. So come join us. Let's get you happier, healthier, and wealthier. You can learn more about the collective at herretirement.com.